It's all business today, ladies and gentlemen. I am giving you my guys for the 2022 fantasy football season. That's right. I am putting my heart on the line. These are the players that I am riding or dying with. I'm going to have them in every single league that I can. These are the dudes I am staking my reputation on. I'm going to give you 5 names, and then I want you to comment down below, who are your my guys? And if you like or dislike any of my takes, that's fine. You can let me know. This is probably no surprise to any of you out there who have been following this channel or our Dynasty channel for any longer than a week's time. But Trey Lance, my guy. Quarterbacks with Trey Lance's rushing upside are rare. Current ADP, according to 4for4, is quarterback 13. According to Underdog, he is quarterback 7. My ranking, he is my quarterback 6, okay? And if you are in a 4-point passing touchdown league, I might even have him ranked slightly higher than this. Let's get on the same page. Important context before we start here. The 49ers did not draft Trey Lance to play and operate this offense the same way that Jimmy G has in the past, okay? So it is important to note that if you struggle envisioning what this offense will look like with Trey Lance instead of Jimmy, you might not be on the same page here. But let me help you get on the same page as me. I'm drafting Trey Lance everywhere I can. Tell me in the comments below, have I convinced you to go out and draft Trey Lance? Tell me after this take. Firstly, let's talk about the situation Trey Lance finds himself in right now. It's an incredible situation. Let's play a game. You like games? Let's play a game. And I want you to tell yourself your answer every time I ask you a question. Who had or has the better situation as a rookie? Jalen Hurts versus Trey Lance as rookies. Their first situation, their first year. Jalen Hurts, wide receiver 1 last year, Devonta Smith. Trey Lance, wide receiver 1 this year, Deebo Samuel. How about their wide receiver 2s? Trey Lance gets Brandon Ayuk. Jalen Hurts had Quez Watkins. How about tight end? Dallas Goedert or George Kittle? Offensive line, I think that's very debatable, up in the air. That's for you to decide. How about coaching staff? You rocking with Nick Sirianni or Kyle Shanahan? Again, I'm easing you in here, trying to help you see that even though Jalen Hurts was not a good NFL quarterback last year, he was a fantastic fantasy quarterback and finished top 6. Secondly, quarterbacks with Trey Lance's rushing upside are rare. He will be top 3 to 5 in most rushing stats for quarterbacks. Let's talk about today's NFL quarterbacks who are dominant as rushers. Your Jalen Hurts, your Lamar Jacksons, your Kyler Murrays, these guys who are truly dominant on the ground, and it raises their ceiling so they can potentially be quarterback 1 on any given week. What we're gonna do right now is I'm gonna try and show you Trey Lance's college profile, who he was drafted to be, compared to these other players who currently are dominant rushing quarterbacks and what they have done in the NFL. So what I've done is I've looked at Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, and Trey Lance. I've seen their college profiles, their last seasons in college, and I'm looking at what is the percentage of times that they ran the ball versus threw the ball when they had attempts, whether that was on the ground or through the air. So stay with me here for a second. Jalen Hurts, his last collegiate season, ran the ball on 40% of his attempts. Okay, Lamar Jackson, his last collegiate season, ran the ball on 35% of his attempts. Kyler Murray, his last college season, he ran the ball on 27% of his attempts. Now Trey Lance, in 2019, his last college season, he ran the ball on 37% of his attempts in that elite tier of rushing quarterbacks. Only Jalen Hurts, of those guys that I've mentioned, rushed the ball more in college than Trey Lance. There is a good reason for you to be worried about Elijah Mitchell this year, losing touchdowns, and it has nothing to do with any other running back on that team. It has everything to do with Trey Lance. He will be used on the goal line, in the red zone, in very specific scenarios, even off broken plays. He's going to have a lot of rushing touchdowns. I have a hot take, but it's on a different video, so I'll let you watch that later on our hot takes video. Last thing I'll say, if you believe in Kyle Shanahan, take the leap and go all in with Trey Lance with me. Kyle Shanahan, one of the best offensive play callers in the NFL. He has been dreaming of playing with a quarterback like this, of coaching a quarterback like Trey Lance. That's why you went out and saw this team give up so much draft capital. take a trip with me for a second. Let's go all the way back to 2012, pre-COVID, when you could actually taste things normally, all the way back to 2012, where Kyle was calling plays for a then rookie quarterback in Washington named RG3, Robert Griffin III. What did RG3 have around him in his rookie season? He had Kyle Shanahan. We got Kyle Shanahan. He had Trent Williams. We got Trent Williams. He had a great run game with Alfred Morris. We have a fantastic run game with whoever's back there. Right now, it's Elijah Mitchell. And he had Pierre Garçon. We got Debo, we got Kittle, and we got Ayuk. You look at what RG3 was able to do as a rookie, and it is a comparison here. As a rookie in fantasy, in the air, 3,200 pass yards and 20 touchdowns. On the ground, 815 rush yards and 7 touchdowns. He finished as the quarterback 5 that year. Now, I'm very well aware the modern day NFL quarterback is different to how it was in 2012, but get on board with me. The price isn't even a risk for you. He is quarterback 13 in ADP right now. I am constantly in one quarterback leagues doing late round quarterbacks targets. Trey Lance will be my quarterback 1 in a lot of one quarterback leagues. He will be the guy I'm relying on. Purely just the rushing upside alone gives some top 12 upside on a weekly basis. Lock it in. Trey Lance will finish as a top 8 quarterback in fantasy football this year. My second my guy this year is Travis Etienne. Are you looking for the next PPR king? Now, look, if you've been following this channel or our Dynasty channel for, last year or however long it's been, you know that I have Travis Etienne tattooed on my forehead. I've been obsessed with this guy as a prospect for a long time. Current ADP, according to 4for4, RB19. According to Underdog, he is RB16. I am higher than both of those guys in my rankings. He is my RB14. If you are hesitant on Travis Etienne, after this take, I want you to let me know in the comments below if I have relieved any of your worries. It's okay if I haven't, just let me know either way. Firstly, let's talk about this. Travis Etienne is an elite running back prospect. He is not a good running back prospect. He is not a great running back prospect. He is an elite running back prospect. I personally preferred Travis Etienne over Najee Harris in the pre-draft talent evaluation that we do. 4-year starter at Clemson. He carried the ball 686 times and averaged 7.2 yards per carry. He got the ball 686 times and he averaged 7.2 yards per carry. That is elite. That is a higher yards per carry in college than Zeke, Najee, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon, Dalvin Cook, CMC, Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift, Nick Chubb, Leonard Fournette, Alvin Kamara, Breece Hall. I'll stop there. I could keep going. He is an elite prospect, and he's also broken a ton of records. NCAA FBS record holder for the most career games scoring a touchdown. 46 of his 55 career games, he scored a touchdown at Clemson. He's also the ACC career record holder for rushing yards, total touchdowns, rushing touchdowns, and total points put up. Elusive, explosive, dynamic. Think Alvin Kamara on steroids. This is what we're talking about with Travis Etienne. Secondly, and we haven't even gotten to my favorite part just yet, let me ask you, are you looking for the next PPR king in fantasy football? If you are, look no further than Travis Etienne. Etienne had more receiving yards and receptions in his last college season than the following players who I all view as these PPR monsters, okay? Better college profile as a receiver than the following: Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey, DeAndre Swift, Najee Harris, Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones, JT, Fournette, Zeke, Breece Hall. Again, the list goes on and on and on. I spent a long time trying to find a prospect like Travis Etienne, who has literally everything that you would want in a running back, who had a better receiving profile out of college. You let me know. I mean, maybe I missed one. Comment down below. So my guy thrived in Clemson in an environment with who under center? Who was his Robin, Batman to his Robin, if you will? Trevor Lawrence. And Trevor Lawrence is obviously the quarterback here. He targeted running backs 92 times last year, and we didn't even have an elite running back to target. Expect that number to go up this year as well. The last thing we need to talk about is James Robinson. Stop worrying about James Robinson. Do you remember just 1 year's time ago when you were scouring through YouTube and articles and Twitter or whatever the case may be, and people told you, don't draft DeAndre Swift because Jamal Williams is going to play a role? What did that do for DeAndre Swift's ADP? It allowed him to fall all the way to the 3rd round, and he was on track to finish as a top 5 running back in PPR formats. Just the injury is what stopped him. It sounds funny, but there was genuinely people last year telling you to not draft DeAndre Swift because of Jamal Williams. We're now talking about James Robinson coming off what is probably the worst injury a running back can suffer. Genuinely the worst. Torn Achilles, that is where all of your explosion comes from. That's where you can cut. We have no idea what James Robinson is going to look like or when he actually will be back into game form. Even if he comes back, don't forget this team is barren of talent outside of Travis Etienne. Who is this offense running through? Etienne needs to be on the field a bunch of times and he needs to get at least 15 touches per game. I think Doug Peterson is aware of that. He is by far the most talented positional player on this offense. Don't be worried about touches. Don't be worried about opportunities. And speaking of DeAndre Swift, okay, that's a good comparison here. Both ultra talents, DeAndre Swift and Travis Etienne. So let's look at Swift last year and what Etienne could do this year. Both were on teams that have bad offenses and probably bad defenses, and probably will have bad defenses. That led to a lot of come from behind opportunities. And Etienne should see a ton of dump off passes in those scenarios where the Jags are down big and they need a bunch of dump off passes from Trevor Lawrence to Travis Etienne to get these quick first downs. Let's think about this. Game script is exactly what I'm talking about here. In 2021, game script, Lions had the 4th worst game script. The Jags had the 2nd worst game script, even worse than the Lions. Why is a bad game script good for Travis Etienne? Again, because you're going to be down in games and you need a running back who is reliable to dump the ball off when you're trying to get these quick drives going. Swift in 2021, 6 targets per game. Travis Etienne this year, we don't know yet. You tell me how many targets is he going to get? I'm going to make a bold statement right now and say if Etienne is healthy, lock him in for a top 8 finish in targets amongst the running back position. Do not miss out on Travis Etienne this year. Stop worrying about James Robinson because we could seriously see a top 12 finish for Travis Etienne this year if he stays healthy. My guy is Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson is going to shock the fantasy community. I love me some A-Rob this year. Current ADP according to 4for4, wide receiver 22. Underdog's ADP right now, wide receiver 18. My ranking, bear with me for a sec. Let me explain. He is my wide receiver 13. There is no reason as to why Allen Robinson can't be a top 12 wide receiver this year. There is absolutely no reason why it cannot happen. Let me explain. Every top 12 wide receiver finish for A-Rob in his career has one thing in particular. That is targets, okay? Top 12 seasons in 2015, wide receiver 6, 9.4 targets a game. In 2019, wide receiver 8, 9.6 targets per game. In 2020, wide receiver 9, 9.4 targets per game. Let's talk about what his target share could look like here in Los Angeles. All right, last year, Cooper Kupp was leading this team at 11.2 targets per game, but you can see the players in orange here, Robert Woods and OBJ, both are gone from this team, all right? Overall, the wide receiver core from last year to this year, there is 13.6 vacated targets per game available. Woods and OBJ are gone. OBJ is not going to be a factor this year, even if he does come back to this team. So what could it look like this year? You have to anticipate some sort of regression for Cooper Kupp. 11.2 targets per game just does not feel like realistic. Those are record-breaking numbers. Maybe he does it again, but you would have to expect some sort of regression for him to the mean. I anticipate this is what the target share could look like. Allen Robinson at about 8 targets per game. If he plays all 17 games, we could be looking at 136 targets this year and a possible top 12 to 18 finish. I'm going to say top 12. I think it's very realistic. As I mentioned before, he thrived off of targets in all of his top 12 finishes. but he was in terrible offenses, guys, attached to terrible head coaches, attached to terrible quarterback plays. So while he might not get 150 targets this year, he's going to be in an extremely efficient offense. He only needs 136, 130, 125 targets to have a chance to legitimately put up a top 12 season with the amount of touchdowns that he could see and the efficiency in this Rams offense headed up by Sean McVay. He's never played with a quarterback like Matt Stafford before. In college, Allen Robinson overcame quarterback play. In the pros, Allen Robinson overcame quarterback play. In Jacksonville, it was Blake Bortles and Chad Henne. In Chicago, it was Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles, okay? Let's not forget what you and I, both of us, missed on Cooper Kupp last year. What did Matthew Stafford do? How did he elevate Cooper Kupp's game? Obviously, Cooper Kupp at this point is a better wide receiver at this point of their careers than Allen Robinson. But let me ask you two questions. Firstly, was literally anyone last year, this time, saying that Cooper Kupp was a more talented wide receiver than Allen Robinson? Let me know. Again, not to disrespect Cooper Kupp, because I think he is fantastic, but to make you remember what we were saying about A-Rob just one season ago, okay? Secondly, can we all agree that Allen Robinson is a better wide receiver than Robert Woods? And if you think that is true, Robert Woods, weeks 1 to 9, before his injury, was the wide receiver 12 in fantasy football. It might sound crazy right now, but Allen Robinson is going to shock the fantasy community. And guess what? His ADP is so friendly. You're talking about Cooper Kupp. You have to have him as your very first player. Allen Robinson can be your 5th player on your team. You can already have your running backs if you want to go hero RB, and you can have him as maybe your second wide receiver on your team. He is going to be a fantastic value. I'm personally drafting him in the 4th round. Now, our community is higher on Allen Robinson in general, so I know that I have to do that. I guarantee you will be able to get him in the 5th round, if not the 6th round. Last thing I will say, don't let recency bias scare you off of Allen Robinson. 1 year ago, you and we're all saying that Allen Robinson is a top 12 wide receiver. 1 year ago, show me anyone's rankings that did not have Allen Robinson in their top 12, or at least their top 15. We are 1 year removed from him finishing as the wide receiver 9. That happened in 2020. Do not let recency bias ruin your opportunity to get a potential wide receiver 1 in the 5th round. Allen Robinson, lock it in. Best value I think you can find in the wide receiver room. My guy, Hollywood Brown. Hollywood is set to explode in Arizona this year. Current ADP, according to 4for4, is wide receiver 24. Underdog ADP is wide receiver 20. My ranking, I have him as my wide receiver 17. Hollywood is set to explode in Arizona this year. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the target share last year and what that could look like this year in this Arizona offense. He had 146 targets last year, finished as the wide receiver 22. I believe he can get near that number again this year in a even better passing offense in Arizona. Last year, Kyler Murray versus Lamar Jackson. Pass attempts per game, Kyler has more. Yards per game, pass yards per game, Kyler had more. Yards per attempt, Kyler had more. Touchdowns per game, Kyler had more. How about true completion percentage? Brought to you by Player Profiler. Kyler first in the NFL. Lamar Jackson 20th in the NFL. How about money throws? These are throws that are difficult to make outside the pocket. You're running, you're scrambling. Kyler Murray first in the NFL. Lamar Jackson 23rd. What is the difference between these two players? When Lamar Jackson takes off, it's to run. When Kyler Murray escapes the pocket, he is always looking downfield. And a guy like Hollywood Brown could greatly benefit from that. And let's talk about the deep ball. Last year, 2021, Kyler Murray, again, versus Lamar Jackson. Why is the deep ball so important for Hollywood Brown? This is where he explodes. This is where he can have those, 3 catches for 100 yards and 2 touchdown type games. That's really possible with a guy like Hollywood. Such a safe floor, in my opinion. But the deep ball last year, Kyler Murray versus Lamar Jackson. Deep ball attempts, Kyler Murray 8th, Lamar 21st. How about deep ball completion percentage? Kyler first in the NFL, Lamar 20th. All these are according to Player Profiler. Take it up with them if you don't like it. How about accuracy rating? Deep ball accuracy rating. Kyler Murray 3rd, Lamar Jackson 14th. Again, these attempts, completion percentage, and accuracy rating, all based off of the deep ball. Obviously, Kyler Murray is the better fantasy quarterback for your fantasy wide receiver to be connected to. Now you got to also remember D-Hop is going to be out for at least 6 games, and it's absolutely possible for Hollywood Brown to reach those sort of targets that he got last year. 8 targets per game, 136 targets on the year. That feels more comfortable to me. 146, he might not reach that number. But again, this is an incredible offense to be attached to. You don't necessarily need that kind of target share to be a dominant fantasy wide receiver with Kyler Murray as your quarterback. It might be less targets, more efficiency, yards through the air, and overall touchdowns. Secondly, you might know this already, but Kyler Murray and Hollywood, they already have a connection that goes all the way back to college. This is why the Cardinals were so comfortable sending a first round pick for Hollywood Brown. They wanted to improve their wide receiver room, and they said, you know what? Let's go get the guy that we know Kyler is going to dominate with, Hollywood. Let's not look in this class. Let's go get Hollywood Brown. Kyler's Heisman year at Oklahoma, who were his guys? CeeDee Lamb, but more importantly, Hollywood Brown was his go-to. After already having an incredible 2017 season, in 2018 with Kyler Murray at Oklahoma, Hollywood dominated. Over 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns. That was one of the most special connections in all of college football. And now you look at them coming together here in the pros, something that they've talked about for a while, that they've wanted to be together and play together for a very long time. Don't be surprised if Hollywood Brown ends up being in this role that Christian Kirk just never could do for Kyler Murray, okay? He's going to flourish as the feature weapon in this offense. Screen game, the sweeps, the deep balls. Kyler Murray and Hollywood Brown are going to be a mind meld this year. And speaking of Kyler Murray, there's been a lot of hate out there, okay? I don't like the hate. It's fine. It is what it is. But despite the haters, he just had his career bests in season wins, completion percentage, yards per game, touchdown percentage, interception rate, okay? You're talking about the number one weapon in a top 10 points per game scoring offense last year. My goodness, Hollywood Brown last year in the first, I think, weeks 1 to 7 was a top 6 wide receiver in fantasy. Do not be surprised if he's somewhere around there again while D-Hop is out. And when D-Hop comes back, we already know that Kyler and Hollywood have this special connection with each other. I still anticipate him being a very, very reliable receiver going forward. D-Hop is getting a little bit older in age. You can expect to see Kyler start to build a great connection with Hollywood at this point of their career. So give me all the Hollywood Brown I can get. I love him where I can get him in drafts as my third wide receiver if I'm doing a double hero RB. I'm smashing that pick every day in drafts. And the very last thing I will say is my honorable mention for my guy, Christian Kirk. Now I have a hot take for you on Christian Kirk. His current ADP, according to 4for4, is wide receiver 42. According to Underdog, it's wide receiver 41. In my rankings, he is wide receiver 33. And people keep telling me when I'm drafting that I'm reaching for Christian Kirk in the 8th round. But to me, it feels like one of the best values on the board. Now I have a hot take for you on Christian Kirk. He will finish top 12 in targets and top 24 as a wide receiver in PPR formats this year. Why? Well, we have a video releasing in a couple days called Hot Takes, and I'm going to tell you exactly why in that video. So make sure you watch it. Click the like button, subscribe so you don't miss out on it. Comment down below and let me know what takes you like, what takes you dislike. I am all in on these 5 players. I'm writing them on my forehead in Sharpie. You can roast me if it doesn't work out, but my reputation lies in Trey Lance, Travis Etienne, Allen Robinson, Hollywood Brown, and Christian Kirk. Ladies and gentlemen, let's ride.
Yo, what's good? Thanks for watching. We got a lot more videos.
A lot more.
If you want more videos,
watch it.
You can also subscribe
right now
if you want to.
You need to.
And lastly, don't forget that you can sign up to support the show and get exclusive content by going to patreon.com/fantasylandfam.